This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. And, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Recently, the Montreal International Jazz Festival was in town, and it completed at the beginning of July. And then, of course, I've run off and I've hung out with the Tesla guys on the Def Leppard tour, and we do rock all the time. But what we don't do is speak about the greats. And so Miles Davis, and I'm not going to explain who Miles Davis is. You know, he has got a new project out that was released called The Complete Birth of Cool. It came out on Blue Note in June. And so I got Erin Davis and Vince Wilburn Jr. on the phone to discuss Miles, to discuss the project. And what's interesting is that we end up talking about Sammy Hagar. And you can never go wrong with Sammy Hagar. And I know Van Halen fans, some of the purists out there are like, oh, Van Halen is only the David Lee Roth era. And as great as the David Lee Roth era was, the Sammy era was spectacular. So, and I also interviewed Gary Peel, who's in Boston and Alliance, but also has played with Sammy Hagar. And so I've got that interview coming up in about a week's time. So between, Erin Davis and Vince Wilburn Jr. and Gary Peel, we're going to sort of pastiche. Should a rock host be saying the word pastiche? Perhaps not, but that's delightful. Anyway, we're going to sort of put together a different look at the whole Sammy Hagar world through these different eyes. Anyway, let me get over to the interview. It is a short one, and we continue here on Mitch Marathon Month. And let us not forget that Alice Cooper guitarist Ryan Roxie has started his podcast on my network as I expand my global reach. I think you can hear my wife laughing in the background. Well, maybe not. Anyway, his show is called In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie. Now, if you go to Apple Podcast or iHeart and all that, and you specifically look up In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie, it is going to probably not show up because he's on the Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon feed. So your best bet is to find the Mitch Lafon feed. And if you're here listening to this, well, you know where to find me. And so just scroll through the different episodes and the In the Trenches stuff will pop up. You can also look at the logo. My logo is a sort of bright orange with flames, and Ryan's is a yellow. So if you go through just the icons and you see orange, those are Mitch shows. And then you go, whoa, what's this yellow one? That is Ryan Roxie. And he just had on members of Blackberry Smoke. He's got Phil X of Bon Jovi coming up. What else does he have coming up? Michael Stairtoe, who played with not Alice Cooper, who played with Lou Reed, who played with Lou Gramm for a while. And just a bunch of great interviews. Oh, Steve Brown, of course, speaking of Def Leppard. So look for In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie, presented by Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. But without further ado, let us get over to today's guests from the world of jazz, if you prefer. It is Erin Davis and Vince Wilburn Jr. We are speaking to Vince Wilburn Jr., nephew of late jazz icon Miles Davis, and, of course, Erin Davis, who is, of course, the son of Miles Davis. Good day, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How you doing?
Good. Absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Lots to talk about, but let's get right in here to the key project that just came out, the Miles Davis, The Complete Birth of Cool, 2-vinyl LP and set that was released on June 7th. Talk to me about the importance of that package and just also Birth of Cool, because this is one of those moments in time that has been captured. So just talk to me about that. And Vince, I'll start with you just so that the fans can understand whose voice goes with whose name. So I'll start with Vince. Vince, talk to me about the complete birth of Cool.
What do you want to know, Mitch? I mean, it's an iconic remade, remastered record. It's a seminal piece by and Universal did a fabulous job, right, Erin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this then. You are both in charge of curating Miles's legacy. Talk to me about some of the challenges you faced, because a lot of people looked up to Miles and what he was doing, and people love to sample now, and people love to use music like that in soundtracks and in commercials. How do you sort of stay on top of that and make sure that the music is used appropriately? And I'll start with you, Erin.
Well, I mean, that's not difficult. I mean, we check when we get licensing requests. We listen if if they've already done the track, we listen to it, see if it's everything's appropriate, everything's cool, if it fits in with if it's quote on brand type of thing. I mean, we also go, we also do extremes where we'll be like, well, it's for a student project and they don't have any money, so we'll let them license it, or we do different. We see every case individually. Is probably the best way I would say. And sometimes we deny like a sample license if we don't feel like it's keeping in line with the ideals that we all believe in, and that's pretty much our criteria. Like if I don't think my sister or my mom could listen to it, then I wouldn't necessarily grant a license. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's all like I said though, it's all case specific.
Right. And Vince, how much say do you have in all of this? Is it an equal partnership amongst all the curators, or does Erin get more of a say? How do you sort of figure this out?
we flip coins. No. Erin and I, we have it down to a science. It's pretty organic. The synergy's great, and we're honest with each other, and it's successful.
So in Montreal coming up in the next couple of weeks, we have the Montreal International Jazz Fest, and a lot of the artists will be paying tribute to Miles, through what they do. Why do you think he was so influential in what he did, and wasn't just another guy or just another musician? Why is he so revered, do you think, Vince?
Why was he so revered?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Because he was Miles Davis. He changed the course of music 4 or 5 times. Everybody always looked to him for direction on where the music was going to go, what fashion was, what kind of car he drove. Back in the day, they said it was cool to even have some vinyl on a train or on a bus, a Miles Davis album tucked under your arms. It was that you were cool. That was that was the cool factor.
I might try that one day. I think I'm gonna get on the bus with one of his records and see what happens.
So you want to look at somebody who's changing music and not standing still. I do. That's what perks my ear. New sounds.
Yeah.
What's new out there? I call Erin and say, "Hey, Erin, what's new? What groups should I be listening to?"
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. So I will put this now. As the years go by, the music is going to start falling into public domain. How do you sort of protect the copyright integrity of what Miles has done?
Well, I mean, when things fall into public domain, it's a little bit hard to protect it because you don't have as many rights as you did before. But we just try to keep giving people stuff they haven't heard. As Birth of the Cool has some tracks that weren't out before. Some deeper look into the process of making that record. So, we've had success with the bootleg series from Sony, which is like archived live performances from Europe and around the world, with former bands and lineups. And we try to keep things to protect his legacy. We try to put music out that people haven't heard, things that they don't know about. So it's not always, just like the stuff that's in public domain. People will just take some of his recordings and slap a new album cover on it and call it Miles Plays and Miles Plays for Lovers or Miles in whatever. So It's unfortunate. Fortunately, we have a good legal team. We have a good publishing team. We're stacked top to bottom with that kind of stuff. So we don't. We try to protect his copyrights as best as we can.
Yeah, you're doing good. Now, of course, Vince, you are part of the Miles Electric Band, which has been said or it's put out as you're interpreting all this great music with your own spin on it. So talk to me about being in that band and putting your own spin on stuff, because, his music is very, very revered and people love it for what it is. Is it, I don't want to say dangerous to put your own spin on it, but explain exactly what you're doing with the Miles Electric Band.
Okay. The Miles Electric Band consists of guys that play with Miles, so we kind of know, we kind of feel that his energy in the space, Robert Irving, myself, Daryl Jones, Blackbird McKnight, the core of the guys are the guys that play with Miles. What we don't, the music that was recorded in that period, it's already been recorded. So I stress to the audiences as we introduce the band, this is just our interpretation, because you can't duplicate chicks, Dave Holland, Jack, you know what I mean? Keith Jarrett, those John McLaughlin. I wouldn't even want to attempt to do that.
Right.
Yeah, so when we did Playboy Jazz, we got the greatest compliment from Herbie. He said, "Your uncle would be proud." This is last year at Playboy Jazz Fest. He said, because what you guys are doing, you're not duplicating us, but you're doing your own, doing your own thing. Your own interpretation of it. And it's not a tribute band. You know what I mean? So that's a cool compliment to have from Herbie.
Yeah,
and they're killing.
They are.
And the audience dig it. Yeah. And like we'll use like Wallace Roney, Etienne Charles, Keon Harold, the top trumpeters, Nick Payton. So we call the guys Christian Scott. We went to Japan with Christian, in Australia with Christian. So and that's the beauty of it, Ambrose Akamansour wants to do it. We can't do. The tours conflict. Terrence Blanchard wanted to do it, but his tour conflicted with us. So, it's pretty cool.
It really is. Birth of Cool, there is the documentary that is being put together by Stanley Nelson. I'll start with you, Erin. Talk to me about this documentary. It had its start a while back, and then it got put on the shelf, and then it got taken off the shelf, and it's been a work in progress, but now there is some buzz going on. Talk to me about that one, and also how is it sort of different from the Miles Ahead film that came out a few years back?
Well, to answer the last part of your question first, it's the Miles Davis Birth of the Cool documentary is different than Miles Ahead, the feature film, because Birth of the Cool is a documentary, and it's not just about Birth of the Cool, it's about his whole life. From his time growing up in East St. Louis to when he made his comeback in the '80s, and so it's a really great piece of work by Stanley Nelson, and we're very proud of it. We've been traveling around, going to the documentary festivals, helping to promote the film. And we've been to Cape Town, Toronto, San Francisco, Sundance. It's been a great run. And
Johannesburg.
Yeah, Vince was in Johannesburg, and everybody who's every time we screen it somewhere, people love it. They really. So we notice that certain audiences react differently to certain parts, but we're just so proud that people are responding the way they are, and it was a great job done by Stanley and his Firelight team and American Masters and everybody, PBS, everybody who contributed to the project. We're just thrilled.
And Vince, talk to me about the documentary. What are fans who haven't seen it yet going to see, and how much of a say do you have? Is it left up to the sort of the director to decide how the vision is going to be, or does he sort of sit with the team and say, okay, I want to say this, and then you guys sort of decide how it's going to come out?
Stanley, we met with Stanley over a few years, and the timing was right. We felt that after the various meetings that he signed off, and we were confident that he could bring a beautiful documentary. What he would ask Erin and I for is just little bits and pieces, maybe a phone number from me, of somebody that one of the side men. But we trusted him, After when you sign off, you have to trust. You have to put your trust in the director, and we're pretty happy with what he came up with, and the fact that it showed the sensitive side of Uncle Miles. The not so positive side, the drugs, which was, is documented. But at the end of the total documentary, it shows the man, what made him Miles Davis, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the perfection.
Agreed.
What drove him, and the lady behind it,
Yeah. Now, when you saw the movie Miles Ahead back in 2015, what was that like for you now to see this man that you knew being portrayed in sort of a big Hollywood kind of movie setting? Was it accurate? Was it exciting? Was it disappointing? Was it what was that sort of feeling to see this guy that you knew now being portrayed on the screen?
Oh, this is Erin. Well, I thought it was great. I think Don did a great job. He wanted to do, much like Vince and Miles Electric do an interpretation of Miles' music, Don wanted to do his own take on a story about Miles Davis. He didn't want to make a biopic. He was not interested in doing that. So he made what you could call a feature film about Miles Davis. There's a little bit of fiction in there. There's a lot of things that are documented, and there's also things that are left to the imagination. So we were really filled with the film itself. It didn't quite roll out the way we would have loved it to, but we got great response from film festivals. We went to the Berlinale in Berlin. Vince went to Sundance. I was at South by Southwest, New York Film Festival. Everywhere we went, it was great. Right, Vince?
Yes.
So
and Don was, Don. He didn't want it to be a documentary, biopic kind of thing. He wanted to move around. Make it interesting.
He kept saying he wanted it to be something that Miles would want to watch, like Miles would want to be in.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want it to be just a static biopic. He didn't think Miles would think that was interesting, so he tried to do something different. And I like what he did. It's definitely his interpretation on it, but I love what he did, and I'm still proud of that film.
And another Herbie's compliment, because we go to Herbie, and that's kind of cool. The whole picture was like that for him.
It really was. And speaking of cool, Vince, you got to play on the Aura album back in '89. Talk to me about that album and going into those sessions, and what was it like for you to actually be on an album and participate? Now, of course, you had done many albums with him, but that one in particular got all kinds of accolades. Talk to me about actually recording with Miles. How was that experience?
You had to be prepared, had to be ready for changes, had to be ready at the stop of a dime. We would record, and he would listen to the dailies of what we recorded, and then he would change up for the next day. Just like live recordings, he would listen to the concert tapes and add things, take away things, to make the music better. Or he would take he would take a horn line from a record we were doing and make an entirely different song from just that horn line. And then it was that quick. So you just had to be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. I called it Miles Davis University. I mean, you just have to be ready and ready for anything. It makes you sharp, keeps you sharp.
It does. And Erin, I'm going to throw this over to you. You, of course, were in the band Bloodline, which had Erin Hager, Sammy Hagar's son, right, which is important, and of course Joe Bonamassa, who has gone on to basically dominate the world, which is good. We love Joe. Talk to me about that band, and how did you sort of get together with the guys, and talk to me a little bit about Joe Bonamassa. Did you sort of see right away that this guy is not just a genius, but he's sort of beyond musical genius?
Well, I knew he was a prodigy because when I actually, funny you said Erin Hagar, because he was only in the band for a little while, but he's the one who got me into the band. We were working on another project together, and he told me about Bloodline, which was not called that at the time. And I forgot what it was going by then, but I read this whole thing about, it's this kid prodigy, and they're trying to surround him with younger musicians. And so I went to the audition, but I was the only drummer. I mean, they were looking at, I think, Zach Starkey or maybe Kofi Baker. But, I got the gig, and, it was a great time for me. It was kind of like being in college. We worked with a lot of great producers like Phil Ramone, Joe Hardy, and we worked with guys like Mark Hudson, who was from the Hudson Brothers, and he co-wrote. He was having a great run when we hooked up with him, because he co-wrote all these great hits with Aerosmith, these early '90s hits that they had going on. So we had a really good. It was a good experience. Joe was young then; he was only in his teens, and he hadn't even started driving yet. And when I left the band, I think they did one or two more tours, and then I think Joe just went on his own after that. So it was a great experience, though, man. I loved playing with those guys. We toured all around the States, man. Everywhere you could think of in this country, we played. Every bar, and it was like the Blues Brothers. It was great, though, man.
It was a great band.
Never say that.
And of course, we have to remember that we had Waylon Krieger in there, son of Robbie Krieger. Yeah. So did Robbie show up every so often and give you pointers? One
time, Robbie we played in L.A. at a place called Club Lingerie, and we had Robbie come down because our encore was Roadhouse Blues by the Doors. So Robbie came down, and I think Waylon started the song off, and Robbie joins in, and he's looking around at everybody. He's like, "What's going on here?" And he just realizes that our band naturally tuned down a half step, and we didn't tell him. So he jumped in the song. He was a half step tuned up from us. So he's sitting there tuning his guitar, rolling his eyes at Waylon. It was great, man. It was fun.
Oh, Robbie's great, and and I do know, because at the time I was a Tesla fan, you did open for Tesla. Were you still part of the band when they went out opening for Tesla and Leonard Skinner? Or No, you were gone by then.
I see them and that. I came to see them. They played at I think it's called the Gibson Amphitheater now. It was the Universal Amphitheater. That's what it was. Back in the 90s, they came through on that tour, and I was not in the band, but I came to see them on that tour.
Oh, that's too bad. And I'll ask you this just before we wrap up. In terms of a singer, Erin Hager, because we all love Sammy. In fact, I just met Sammy in May. How was he vocally? Is he like his dad, or his dad's his dad? How did he compare?
Well, they're two different people. Erin has a very powerful voice, and he has a very good knack for songwriting and artistry. He's a really good artist. He paints, draws, anything he does, he's pretty good at it. He's a good cook. And, but I don't think that the rock and roll sort of touring lifestyle was really his thing. He had the voice and he had the talent to write songs, but I don't think he liked really just going on the road and, singing every night, in those clubs with smoke and everything. I don't think it was really his thing in the end. So he left the band. Then Barry Oakley Jr., the son of Barry Oakley from the Allman Brothers, he was our bass player, and he became the singer, as he was also the singer in Robbie Krieger's band. He did all the Jim Morrison stuff. So we wanted to be in Barry, and it worked out great.
Yeah, what a great band. And, of course, I'll remind the folks, the Complete Birth of Cool from Miles Davis is out now. Gentlemen, we struggled to get the interview done because, well, I had written down the wrong date, and you had called me, and I was like, what? But we got it done, and absolute pleasure. And it's great. And
thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it.
I'm glad we got it done, and it's merci, as we say in Montreal. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Now, cheers. Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk.